Welcome back to the broadcast. This is Front and Center. I'm in studio with Kipchumba Karori, lawyer and political strategist, governance expert Silvester Kasuku, lawyer and political strategist, Dr. Alutalala Muhwana, and political risk analyst Dismas Mokua. Dismas, I was on you before we went for a commercial break. State capture. Those two words have been used a lot over the last 5 years, but also more so over the last 2 weeks since Kenya Kwanza launched their manifesto. And it is in their manifesto, and that is what they've been saying. Azimio have been accusing them of not factoring in the fight against theft of public funds in their manifesto. They say it is what that state, dealing with state capture means. A lot of people have deduced this to mean that they will, if Ruto was to win the presidency, would go after his current boss. And that is what's making these waters even murkier. Do you agree with this?
Now, to be fair, all the presidential candidates and even others who've been stopped by IBC from running have actually described state capture. Maybe they did not use the same words, state capture, because simply state capture is political corruption where public officers, especially the elected public officers, do not serve our national or public interest. Right. They use their position as a factor of production so that their personal interests overweigh or given precedence. Jim Wanjigi spoke about it, Raila Odinga has spoken about it, but Kenya Kwanza has captured it and placed it on the manifesto. Now, what is interesting is, when you go through that Kenya Kwanza manifesto into detail, as I have, they have not mentioned a name. But people have already started crying, saying that we are being targeted. So one begins to wonder, if your name has not been mentioned, why are you feeling nervous? Why are you guilty all of a sudden? And in my view, if Kenya Kwanza retains the presidency and they start auditing these major public decisions and institutions, that would be a good thing for Kenya. Because President Kenyatta is on record as having said that corruption is actually domiciled at his office. He said that. Right. And then at some stage he said that we lose 2 billion shillings every day, which translates to a massive 720 billion per annum. Now, that is a part of state capture. Now, the president is on record issuing directives times above number, that I want tenders publicized, I want this to be done, but people do not act on those directives. So in my view, anybody who becomes a president, whether it's going to be Professor Wajakoya, whether it's going to be Ruto, whether it's going to be Raila, we must audit decisions taken in Kenya from 1963. Right. It should even capture the Ndegwa Commission, because why do you allow public servants of rank to do business with themselves? I mean, you sit at the office of the president or at the national treasury, and then you are the principal supplier to the same government you're working in. That is how they've stifled the private sector in Kenya. Because for you to do any meaningful business with the government, you must be in government. And members of the National Assembly have indicated times above number that corruption is domiciled at the national government as well as the National Assembly. That our legislators, when they go to the bathroom and they receive khaki envelopes, they budget for corruption. We need to question all these decisions. Right. For instance, at some stage, we were using timber for poles, for power supply. Then all of a sudden, without public participation, we went to concrete poles. One may want to ask one question: why did this happen? Even removing subsidies on fertilizer, we want to start asking these questions. All the bilateral, all the multilateral agreements signed in, we must ask ourselves, do they serve our national interest and do they serve our public interest?
Indeed, we can have a whole show on this issue of state capture. Daktari, if I can come to you, do you think the Kenya Kwanza Brigade have a right to promise what they are promising, to tell Kenyans or their supporters they will go after people they accuse of state capture? And do you think the president has a right to feel targeted and to react in the way he has?
Thank you. I think he has handled it well. I'll just add that Ben, if an incoming president were to go for his predecessor, that would have happened when Mzee Moi retired. Because so much was talked about Mzee Moi and how he had not done things right. I recall Mheshimiwa Kiraitu Murungi telling him, for example, in one of the rallies, that let him go home and herd the goats as we show him how to run government. A few years later, after they have been in government, the Moi prophecy that wanasema Moi must go, one time will come they'll say, Moi must come back. Actually, that was a fulfilling prophecy. The reason is this, that in politics, and in Kenya in particular, all these leading lights in politics coalesce around certain specific benefits which are covert, and none of us will never know what deals they have made. And by the time you see these ethnic blocks coming to work together, a lot of protective clauses have already been sealed away from the public glare. Right. And therefore, whether the SGR was procured corruptly, whether COVID billionaires swindled the country, nothing will be done about it, except tusahau iliyopita, tujenge taifa. Mzee Kenyatta left that mantra with us. Number two, it is not feasible to think that because Kenya Kwanza have not specifically talked about corruption. In my view, I have read the manifesto, and they have outlined various aspects of how they intend to tackle the economy. And you can see part of the solutions there eventually will lead to the reduction, if not eradication, of corruption. And there is no reason why the sitting president should feel threatened that William Ruto will go after him. The only reason that he may have anxiety, but I've told you there's no need for anxiety because they'll always cover for each other. The only reason why his supporters may feel vulnerable is by sheer fact that they have descended into the arena of campaigning and they are campaigning for William Ruto's competitor. And therefore, in the end, they'll not have plum jobs as a continuation as it will be if Honorable Raila Odinga will take the seat. Right. Because if Honorable Raila Odinga takes, then Uhuru Kenyatta has his people in continuity. After all, is he not the chairman of the Azimio Council?
All right. It's a delicate balance, Silvester. What is your...
Before I come to first and foremost, this issue of state capture is not something that is new here in Kenya. And it's not even the only isolated case in the whole world. I believe that the Kenya Kwanza Brigade has copied this from what President Zuma,
I hope you're not justifying it, though.
No, I'm not justifying. What I'm saying is that President Zuma in 2018 established what was called the Zondo Commission. And in that Zondo Commission, it was meant to investigate state capture.
The Guptas.
The Guptas. Now, at the end of the day, who went to jail? Zuma. Now, in the words of two World Bank researchers, that is Joel Hellman and Daniel Kaufman, they say that state capture is a state of grand corruption, that oligarchs manipulating policy formulation and even shaping the emerging rules of the game. He did talk about like when changes were made with regard to what type of poles were to be used in electricity transmission lines. Who made that change? In whose interest? Who therefore benefited from it? Kenyans are the best judges. Going forward, we are saying that state capture cannot just be confined, let's say, or to be defined in the frame of the KK manifesto, and that Uhuru Kenyatta is now the one who will suffer as a result of establishment of a commission of state capture. What I want to say is that that is a mere campaign statement. And because there have been many other campaign statements associated with the same brigade from 2013, 2017, including free bundles and free internet for youths to get jobs, and the same being repeated now, laptops, and then going to diapers, coming from, 10,000 MSMEs and coming into wheelbarrows. I want to say that we better stop this kind of shenanigans of bringing or just tabling mere statements to woo voters, to create fear, and to pretend to be the key champion of good governance in Kenya.
Thank you, Silvester.
And yet we are leaving the credible ones who are known to be, for that particular perspective, look like they are waiting.